On the line with us is Jake Johnston. Jake is the research associate at the Center for Economic and Policy Research, one of the better progressive economic think tanks out there that we've worked with for years. CEPR.net is the website. Jake's Twitter handle is Jacob, J-A-K-O-B, Johnston, or at CEPRDC, or Haiti Aid Watch. Jake, tell us what we know about what's going on. You've focused on Latin America for years. What's the latest on Haiti? Yeah,
thanks for having me. I mean, there's almost too many places to know where to begin with what's going on in Haiti, right? I mean, obviously, about 6 weeks ago, the President Jovenel Moise was assassinated, triggering a large sort of political and governance crisis, which in fact sort of predated the assassination in so many ways. And then this past weekend, a 7.2 earthquake that struck the southern portion of Haiti, causing widespread devastation, and followed very quickly by Tropical Storm Grace, which dumped floodwaters all over the south as well. So it's an extremely difficult situation on the ground right now.
Yeah. What is being done? I understand the U.S. military is bringing planes in there right now as we speak.
Yeah, and I think, what's most important to remember, I mean, it is Haitians who are the natural first responders, and it is Haitians who are helping neighbors, communities, families, and have been mobilizing nonstop since the disaster, right? And it is really, I think from everything I'm hearing, local organizations that are really sort of taking the lead in this response on the ground in the South. So
your blog, Haiti Relief and Reconstruction Watch, you're talking about, well, there's just a whole pile of stuff here over at CEPR. We're talking with Jake Johnston. What can individual Americans do who want to help out? Where pressure points? Are there good organizations? Are there things that we should be doing, or ways that we can increase aid to Haiti? And going forward, what sort of reforms? I mean, Haiti is in a political crisis right now. We had, after the assassination of the former president, we had a former president on this program a few weeks ago. In fact, we reached out to him to talk to him today. He was unavailable. What needs to be done there as well as here, and how can we all participate in this?
Yeah, well, I think, we've learned a lot of lessons from the 2010 earthquake and the response to that, which, in so many ways was disaster in its own right. And then one of the main lessons was, rather than supporting these big foreign NGOs to come in and try and sort of impose solutions from abroad, to support local organizations, right? And so, if there are people watching exactly inside Haiti. And so if there are folks watching the show looking to get involved with and donate, I think the most important thing is to do some homework, right? And to find local organizations that are actually there on the ground in these affected communities. These are the people who know what these communities need and know how to actually implement effective programs. What we saw again after 2010 was billions of dollars in aid, almost all of which entirely bypassed local organizations, the Haitian government, the private sector in Haiti. And this had a really nefarious long-term impact on the development in Haiti.
So, I mean, you don't want to just like do a Google search. I mean, you might end up with some scam organization. How do you know who to send aid to or who to support if you're trying to support local Haitian charities? Are there any particular ones that you want to mention here?
Yeah, so there is an organization, Haiti Response Coalition, that has put together a list of local organizations, trusted organizations. Again, but I think there are lots of ways to try and find these organizations. I mean, certainly, again, doing one's homework and finding credible organizations, and it is possible. But again, I urge folks to look at the list put out by the Haiti Response Coalition. There's just a number of organizations there that are certainly on the ground and leading the response right now.
Is there a specific website for the Haiti Response? Tell me that name again.
Haiti Response Coalition.
Coalition.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Oh, here it is. It's HaitiResponse.org is the website for them. I'm looking at that website right now. They also have a Facebook page, and they say the Haiti Response Coalition is a cross-sector platform for information and organizing collaborative action for a stronger Haiti. Members of the coalition actively seek to expand their knowledge, cooperation, and collective action using a human rights-based approach. They go through values and coalition members and things. Oh, they're doing a lot of stuff. They're doing COVID. They're doing, response. Good start. Okay.
And I think, going back to your question, too, and connecting this to the political situation, because I think that's such a critical issue here. Right? We so often try and think of humanitarian issues and politics as these sort of two separate siloed things, right, and not connected, and yet they're so deeply connected, right? And oftentimes when an aid project goes wrong or after the 2010 earthquake, to try and sort of explain away some of the failures, everything's blamed on instability, right? And I think we have to take a step back and look at some of the root causes of that political instability and understand that it's actually been these foreign interventions, both after and after, but also more overt political interventions, overturning electoral results, supporting coups d'etats, et cetera, that have really undermined the government, contributed to the political instability, and which generate the difficulty that we see, manifesting itself today in the response to the earthquake, to the tropical storms, et cetera.
Yeah, well, there's two things right off the top of my head. One, that Haiti had to pay reparations to France forever, basically, for having declared their own independence. And you may know off the top of your head how many years it was. It seems like it was over 50. And then secondly, the United States supported Papa Doc Duvalier and Baby Doc Duvalier, which were just, rapist administrations. I mean, they just pillaged that country. And I have, I was not all that politically aware back in those days, or at least with regard to international affairs beyond the Vietnam War. I don't know how we did that, why we supported them, why we went along with that as long as we did. Do you have any insights into that? Ways that, lessons America should learn from our involvement in this?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think, the lessons here in terms of, aid and politics, I think is the same in both cases, right? Which is not imposing solutions from abroad or thinking that we know what is best for Haiti, right? But listening to voices in Haiti and trying to support those efforts and standing in solidarity with the people of Haiti, as opposed to, again, intervening in the affairs of Haiti, right? And that's a very different dynamic. And I think you raised such an important point about this history, right? Many people abroad, the only thing they know about Haiti may be that it's, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, which seems like the sort of trademark thing that has to be in every news article. And I think the point you make, right, reparations around Haiti being, born out of a successful revolt of the enslaved population, right? And that was in 1804. And this is a country that stood as an example to the world and yet has been made to pay for that example for centuries. I think that has so much to do with not only the view of Haiti as this sort of inherently unstable place, but also, again, going back to the root causes of so many of the things that we see manifested today.
What was the rationale that the U.S. government used for supporting the Duvalier regimes?
It was largely under the banner of anti-communism, right? A nation.
They were our guys against Castro?
That's exactly right. And I think, in so many ways, the world has obviously changed, and yet it's obviously stayed the same in too many ways as well, right? And so, again, you see so often the interest of big donor countries such as the U.S. being at the center of our interventions and foreign assistance in Haiti, right, rather than the needs and desires of the Haitian people and the Haitian community, right? And so, again, switching this notion of trying to impose solutions versus listening to folks on the ground and standing in solidarity.
Which I think is in a way, even kind of a racist thing, this whole white savior complex and, we know what's best and all that kind of stuff.